The lone messenger. Admiral Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck of Lunar Base Alpha, her weathered hands clasped behind her back as she watched Earth's last hope being assembled in the vacuum of space. The Solaris stretched nearly 2 kilometers from bow to stern, its crystalline quantum arrays gleaming under the harsh lunar sunlight. 20 years of unified human endeavor, countless breakthroughs in physics, and the combined GDP of 3 continents had produced this single vessel. Another protest in Geneva. Admiral Commander Rodriguez reported, his hologram flickering beside her. They're calling it humanity's greatest gamble. Putting all our eggs in one basket, they say. Chen didn't turn away from the window. They said the same thing about the moon landing, James, and the Mars colonies. She traced the Solaris's elegant silhouette with her finger against the glass. But they don't know what we know. What they knew changed everything. It had started 3 years ago when the quantum arrays at Mauna Kea picked up the signal, a pattern so complex it took AI systems 6 months to decode even a fraction of it. The message was clear. Humanity wasn't alone, and we weren't ready for what was coming. Director Zhao's team finished processing the latest data packet. Rodriguez continued, "The temporal anomaly is expanding. Conservative estimates give us 20 years before it reaches our solar system." Chen finally turned, her expression grave. "And optimistic estimates? 15 years, maybe less." Rodriguez's hologram shuffled uncomfortably. "The public's right about one thing. We are gambling everything on a single ship. The resources required to build even one Solaris nearly bankrupted the Global Space Initiative. A fleet would be impossible. A fleet would be pointless." Chen corrected him. She activated her neural link, bringing up the classified simulations that had haunted her dreams for months. "Our models are clear. The temporal anomaly doesn't just destroy, it rewrites. Multiple ships would only give it multiple chances to alter our timeline. One ship, precisely calibrated to the quantum frequency we detected in the signal, is our only shot." The Solaris wasn't just humanity's greatest achievement. It was their most carefully guarded secret. Its quantum core didn't just power the ship, it maintained the stability of space-time around it. Multiple vessels would create interference patterns, destabilizing each other's protective fields. The math was unforgiving. Humanity got one shot at this, one vessel to thread the cosmic needle. "The crew selection committee has made their final decisions," Rodriguez said after a moment of heavy silence. "Would you like to review the candidates?" Chen nodded, and 12 holographic profiles materialized between them. 12 souls chosen to carry the weight of human civilization. Their faces floated before her. Engineers, physicists, xenobiologists, and pilots. Each one had been selected not just for their expertise, but for their psychological resilience. They would need it. "Have they been told the full truth?" she asked. "No," Rodriguez replied. "Only that they're being sent to investigate the signal source. We're maintaining operational security regarding the temporal anomaly and the quantum mechanics involved." Dr. Patil insisted. Knowing too much about the physics could affect their observations and compromise the mission. Chen studied the faces before her. They were young, brilliant, and utterly unaware that they would be carrying more than just humanity's hopes with them into the void. The quantum core that powered the Solaris had another function, one that only 5 people on Earth knew about. It contained the digitized consciousness of every human being on the planet, a backup of humanity itself. "They're calling it Operation Legacy now," Rodriguez said softly. "Rather poetic, don't you think? Everything we are, everything we've built, distilled into a single vessel. One ship," Chen mused, turning back to the window. "One chance." The Solaris's quantum arrays pulsed with a subtle blue light, like a heartbeat. "But they're wrong about the gamble, James. We're not putting all our eggs in one basket. We're putting them in the only basket that can survive what's coming." As if in response, the Solaris's main drive flickered to life, testing its systems. The light caught the ship's hull, revealing the motto etched in ancient Greek along its side. "N to Pan, all in one." "Send word to the crew," Chen ordered. They begin isolation training tomorrow. And James, she paused, watching her reflection overlay the distant ship. Make sure they understand. They're not just carrying humanity's legacy. They're carrying its future. As Rodriguez's hologram faded, Chen remained at the window, watching humanity's greatest gamble take shape against the star-filled void. One ship, one chance, one future. It would have to be enough. Because the alternative wasn't just failure, it was oblivion. The temporal anomaly was coming, and with it, a force that could unwrite humanity from existence itself. But humanity had always thrived when backed into a corner. And this time, they weren't just fighting for survival. They were fighting for the right to exist at all. The Solaris would carry humanity's legacy to the stars, but it would carry something else too. The indomitable human spirit that had taken them from caves to the cosmos. One ship, one mission, one destiny. It would have to be enough. The weight of all humanity. Dr. Maya Patel stood in the center of the simulation chamber, surrounded by holographic stars. The 12 candidates sat before her in a semicircle, their faces illuminated by the artificial constellation. These were the chosen ones, selected from a pool of millions, vetted through countless psychological evaluations, and tested beyond the limits of human endurance. You're probably wondering why you're all here. Maya began, her voice steady despite the weight of what she was about to reveal. Why, in an age of autonomous systems and AI, we need human beings on this mission at all. Why we're sending just one ship, when conventional wisdom suggests a fleet would provide redundancy. Captain David O'Neill, the mission's pilot designate, leaned forward. His record in the Mars fleet was legendary. He'd saved 3 colonies during the Great Dust Storm of 2157. With respect, Dr. Patel, we've all been wondering exactly that. The Solaris is magnificent, but she's still just one ship, one point of failure. Maya smiled, though it didn't reach her eyes. With a gesture, she transformed the simulation chamber. The stars vanished, replaced by a visualization of quantum probability fields, waves of possibility colliding and interfering with each other. What you're seeing is the reason we can only send one ship. The signal we detected, it's not just a message. It's a blueprint, a warning, and a challenge. She manipulated the hologram, zooming in on a particular pattern. This is what happens when multiple quantum-shielded vessels attempt to traverse the same region of spacetime. The waves collapsed catastrophically, creating a cascade of destructive interference. Several of the candidates, the physicists especially, inhaled sharply as they recognized the implications. Dr. Sarah Wu, the team's quantum engineer, was the first to speak. The shields would cancel each other out. Multiple ships would. She trailed off, her face pale. Would tear each other apart at the quantum level. Maya finished. The Solaris isn't just a ship. It's a precisely tuned quantum instrument. Its drive system, its shields, even its hull resonance. Everything has been calibrated to maintain quantum coherence during the journey. Multiple ships would create interference patterns that would destroy them all. The revelation settled over the room like a heavy blanket. These weren't just astronauts anymore. They were humanity's only chance. Lieutenant Zara Hassan, their communications specialist, stood up. So why us? Why humans at all? Wouldn't I be more reliable? Maya's expression darkened. We tried that first. Sent 3 eye-controlled probes toward the signal source. All 3 went dark at exactly the same point in space. Whatever's out there, whatever sent that signal, it wants to talk to us, not our machines. The simulation changed again, showing the Solaris's planned trajectory. A single golden line threading through a maze of probability waves, finding the one safe path through the quantum storm. You 12 were chosen because you represent the best of humanity, not just in your fields of expertise, but in your capacity for adaptation, for lateral thinking, for seeing patterns where AI sees only chaos. Maya's voice grew passionate. The Solaris may be one ship, but it carries within it every breakthrough, every innovation, every dream humanity has ever achieved. She looked at each of them in turn. O'Neill the pilot, Wu the quantum engineer, Hassan the linguist, Dr. Chen the xenobiologist, and all the others. Each one chosen not just for what they knew, but for who they were. The ship's quantum core contained something else too, Maya continued. A database of human knowledge unlike anything ever created. Art, music, literature, science, the sum total of human achievement. And more importantly, the mathematical principles that underlie human consciousness itself. The implications weren't lost on the crew. They weren't just being sent to make contact. They were being sent to preserve humanity itself, in case the worst happened. One ship, Maya concluded, because that's all we get. One chance, because that's all we need. And one crew, you, because in all our simulations, in all our calculations, the human element was always the variable that made the difference. The holographic stars returned, but they looked different now. Each point of light seemed to carry the weight of human destiny. The crew sat in silence, processing the magnitude of what they'd learned. Finally, O'Neill spoke again. When do we begin? Maya smiled, and this time it reached her eyes. You already have. Everything you've experienced since arriving at lunar base, every test, every simulation, every seemingly random interaction, has been part of your training. The real question is, now that you know the truth, are you ready for what comes next? The crew exchanged glances. They were no longer 12 individuals. They were humanity's chosen representatives, carrying the weight of their entire species on their shoulders. One ship, Hassan said softly. One crew. One chance. Wu added. Maya nodded. Tomorrow, we begin the real training. You'll learn things about physics that will change how you see reality itself. You'll face challenges designed to push you beyond every limit you thought you had. Because out there, she gestured to the stars, there are no second chances. The simulation faded, leaving them in the bare chamber. But something had changed. They were no longer candidates. They were humanity's last, best hope. And somewhere out there, beyond the reach of their most powerful telescopes, something was waiting for them. Something that had chosen to speak to humanity alone, among all the civilizations of the galaxy. One ship, one crew, one destiny. The weight of all humanity rested on their shoulders, and they were ready to carry it to the stars. The hidden protocol. In the depths of the Solaris, Dr. Sarah Wu stood before the quantum core, its crystalline structure pulsing with an otherworldly blue light. 3 months into their training, and she still couldn't quite believe what she was seeing. The mathematics behind it defied conventional physics. It wasn't just storing energy, it was storing possibility itself. Beautiful, isn't it? Admiral Chen's voice startled her from her contemplation. The older woman stepped out of the shadows, her uniform pristine even at this late hour. But you've noticed something about it, haven't you, Dr. Wu? Sarah nodded slowly. The storage capacity. It's excessive. Even accounting for the quantum shield generators and the drive system, we're only using about 30% of its potential. I've run the calculations a dozen times, and I can't figure out why we'd need so much quantum processing power. What if I told you it wasn't just processing power? Chen moved closer to the core, her reflection fragmenting across its crystalline surface. What if I told you this was humanity's backup drive? Sarah's mind raced, connecting dots she hadn't even known were there. The massive storage capacity, the bizarre quantum encoding protocols, the redundant systems that seem to serve no clear purpose. You're not talking about just data, are you? Chen shook her head. Every human consciousness on Earth has been digitally mapped and stored within this core, not just memories or personality patterns, the quantum state of every neural connection, preserved in perfect fidelity. If Earth falls to the temporal anomaly, humanity won't just survive in records and databases. It will survive in essence. The implications staggered Sarah. She reached out to touch the core's housing, feeling its subtle vibration. We're not just carrying information. We're carrying souls. which is why the ship must remain intact at all costs. Chen continued. The quantum state of human consciousness is incredibly delicate. Any attempt to distribute it across multiple vessels would result in degradation. One ship, one core, one backup of humanity's collective consciousness. A new voice joined them. And now you understand why the crew selection process was so intense. Maya Patil emerged from the access corridor, carrying a holographic tablet. You're not just pilots and scientists anymore. You're the guardians of humanity's essence. Sarah looked between the two women, her mind spinning with questions. Does the rest of the crew know? They will, Maya replied. Tomorrow. But we needed our quantum engineer to understand first. Because there's more. She activated her tablet, projecting a complex diagram into the air between them. The core isn't just storing consciousness, it's evolving it. The diagram showed neural patterns shifting and growing in complexity. Every moment we're in flight, the stored consciousness patterns will be running in a highly accelerated virtual environment. By the time we reach our destination, they'll have experienced thousands of years of simulated evolution and development. We're not just preserving humanity, Chen added. We're advancing it. The beings we carry within this core will be far beyond what we are now. More adapted, more evolved, more ready for whatever we find out there. Sarah's scientific mind raced with the possibilities. The signal, whoever sent it, they must have known this was possible. They weren't just reaching out to current humanity. They were reaching out to what humanity could become. Exactly. Maya's expression was intense. But there's a catch. The core requires conscious observation to maintain quantum coherence. That's why we need humans on board. I couldn't do it. The moment artificial systems try to observe quantum states, they collapse them. The observer effect, Sarah whispered. We're not just crew members. We're quantum observers, maintaining the stability of humanity's backup copy through our own consciousness. Chen nodded grimly. Now you understand why we can only send one ship, why we need the exact number of crew we have. Every single person aboard plays a vital role in maintaining the quantum stability of the core. Too few observers, and the pattern degrades. Too many, and the interference patterns become unmanageable. Sarah looked at the core with new eyes. Within its crystalline lattice, billions of human consciousness patterns were stored, evolving, growing. The weight of that responsibility settled over her like a physical force. There's one more thing, Maya said softly. The core has a safety protocol. If the ship is severely damaged, if we encounter something that threatens to destroy us completely. She paused, looking at the gently pulsing crystal. It can transmit one focused burst of quantum-entangled information, powerful enough to reach across light years. Every human consciousness it contains, beamed out into space. Toward what? Sarah asked, though she suspected she knew the answer. Toward whoever sent us that signal, Chen replied. They gave us the blueprints for this technology for a reason. They're not just calling us out there. They're offering us a safety net, a way to ensure humanity survives, even if the ship itself doesn't. The three women stood in silence, watching the quantum core pulse with its ethereal light. Within its crystal matrix, humanity dreamed, evolved, and waited. One ship, carrying not just the present of humanity, but its future, and perhaps its salvation. Tomorrow, Chen said finally, we tell the others. And then the real mission begins. Sarah nodded, her hand still resting on the core's housing. She could almost imagine she felt the billions of consciousness patterns swirling within, each one a spark of human potential, each one part of the greatest backup plan ever conceived. One ship, one core, one future for all humanity. The hidden protocol wasn't just about preservation. It was about transformation. And somewhere out there, something was waiting to receive humanity's evolved consciousness, should the worst come to pass. The question was, what would humanity become in the process? The quantum deception. Captain David O'Neill floated in the Solaris's observation dome, watching the Earth shrink behind them. They were 3 days into their mission, and something wasn't adding up. As a pilot, he'd developed an almost supernatural sense for when a ship wasn't behaving quite as it should. The Solaris's movements were perfect, too perfect. You've noticed it too, haven't you? Lieutenant Hassan drifted up beside him, her dark eyes fixed on the retreating Earth. The way the ship responds. It's like it's anticipating our commands, O'Neill finished. I thought I was imagining it at first, but the reaction times are impossible. No ship this size should be able to maneuver with such precision. It's not just that. Dr. Wu joined them, clutching a tablet displaying complex quantum readings. The core's energy patterns, they're not consistent with a single vessel. It's like we're seeing quantum echoes, shadows of actions we haven't taken yet. O'Neill was about to respond when the ship's AI chimed softly. Captain, Admiral Chen requests your presence in the quantum lab. All senior crew members are to attend. They found Chen waiting with Dr. Patil and a holographic display that filled half the lab. The image showed the Solaris, but not as they'd ever seen it before. The single ship seemed to blur and multiply, existing in multiple states simultaneously. I suppose you've all noticed that something's different about our ship. Chen began without preamble. The truth is, the Solaris isn't exactly what we told you it was. Dr. Patel, would you explain? Maya stepped forward, manipulating the hologram. The Solaris isn't just one ship. It's many ships, existing in a state of quantum superposition. What you're seeing is called quantum decoherence manifold technology. In simple terms, the ship exists in multiple quantum states simultaneously, only collapsing into a single reality when absolutely necessary. The crew stared at the display in stunned silence. The image showed the Solaris splitting into multiple versions of itself, each one identical yet somehow distinct. You mean we're in multiple places at once? Hassan asked, her training in quantum communications helping her grasp the concept. Not exactly, Maya replied. Think of it more like potential. The ship can split into up to 12 distinct vessels, each carrying a perfect copy of the quantum core and its stored consciousness. But maintaining that split state requires enormous energy and perfect quantum coherence. Which is why you needed exactly 12 crew members, O'Neill realized. We're not just observers, we're quantum anchors. Each of us would pilot one of the split ships if it became necessary. Chen nodded. The single-ship strategy wasn't just about resources or quantum interference. It was about hiding our true capabilities. If whatever's waiting for us out there scans the Solaris, they'll see exactly what we want them to see. One ship making one desperate journey. Dr. Wu was rapidly making calculations on her tablet. The energy requirements would be astronomical. Unless. She looked up, eyes wide. The quantum core. It's not just storing consciousness. It's storing potential energy. Enough to power multiple ships. Precisely, Maya confirmed. But there's a catch. Once we split, we can't maintain that state indefinitely. The ships would have to either recombine within 48 hours or choose to become permanently separate entities. And if we split, she paused, looking at each crew member in turn. The stored consciousness patterns would be divided among the ships. Each vessel would carry a portion of humanity's backup. The implications hit them like a physical force. They weren't just crew members anymore. They were potential captains, each responsible for a fraction of humanity's future if things went wrong. Why tell us now? O'Neill asked, though he suspected he knew the answer. Chen's expression was grim. Because we've detected something following us, something that shouldn't be possible at these speeds. If it catches us, we need to be ready to execute Protocol Hydra, a full quantum split. 12 ships, 12 directions, 12 chances for humanity to survive. The hologram shifted, showing their pursuit course. A shadow moved behind them, barely detectable but undeniably present. Whatever sent that signal might not be the only thing out here, Chen continued. We need you all to be ready. Each of you has been unconsciously training to pilot your own quantum split vessel through the simulations we've been running. You're more prepared than you know." The crew looked at each other with new understanding. Every simulation, every test, every seemingly random challenge had been preparing them for this possibility. "One ship becomes many," Hassan murmured. "A quantum deception." "Exactly," Maya said. "But remember, this is a last resort. Every split increases the complexity of the quantum field, making it harder to maintain coherence. We risk losing everything if we're not careful." O'Neill turned back to the observation window. The Earth was barely visible now, a tiny blue marble in the vast black. Somewhere out there, something was following them, hunting them. And now, they knew their ship's final secret. It wasn't just humanity's Ark. It was humanity's Hydra. Cut off one head, and 12 more would take its place. "How long until it catches us?" he asked. "At current speeds, 72 hours, Chen replied. "Just enough time to prepare for Protocol Hydra, if it comes to that." The crew dispersed to their stations, each carrying the weight of this new knowledge. They were no longer just the crew of one ship. They were 12 potential captains, each ready to take a piece of humanity's future in a different direction, if the worst should happen. One ship that could become many, one crew that could multiply, one chance that could split into 12. The quantum deception was complete, and soon they would discover if it would be enough to save them all. Legacy of 1. Time was running out. The Solaris's quantum sensors tracked the pursuing entity, its impossible velocity bringing it closer with each passing hour. In the ship's command center, the entire crew had gathered for what might be their last unified decision. "It's not trying to catch us," Dr. Wu announced, studying the sensor readings. "It's hurting us. Look at the pattern." She gestured to the holographic display, showing their pursuers course corrections. "It's steering us toward something." Captain O'Neill nodded grimly, straight toward the coordinates from the original signal. "This was never a chase. It's an escort." Admiral Chen stood at the center of the command deck, her face illuminated by the quantum core's pulsing light visible through the observation windows. "Then we have a choice to make. Protocol Hydra is ready. We can split now, scatter to the stars. Or we trust that whoever sent that signal knew exactly what they were doing," Dr. Patel finished. "The quantum core's evolution simulations have been running for months now. The consciousness patterns within, they're changing, growing, becoming something new." Lieutenant Hassan's communications array suddenly lit up with activity. "We're getting something. A transmission, but it's like nothing I've ever seen. It's resonating with the quantum core." The holographic displays flickered, and then the command center filled with light. A figure materialized before them, not quite human, not quite alien, its form shifting and flowing like liquid mathematics. "We have been waiting," it said, its voice somehow conveying concepts beyond mere words. "Humanity, children of Earth, carriers of the quantum legacy." The crew stood transfixed as the being's form stabilized into something their minds could better comprehend. A luminous humanoid shape composed of intricate patterns of light. "You are not the first to make this journey," the entity continued, "but you are the first to do it correctly. One ship, one core, one unified consciousness evolving within. Others sent fleets, armies, armadas. They did not understand. Evolution requires unity before it can embrace diversity." Dr. Wu's eyes widened as she looked at her quantum readings. The core, the patterns, they're synchronized with the entity's energy signature. It's the same technology. "We sent the signal," the entity confirmed. "We sent the plans for your quantum core. We are what humanity will become, not in your time, but in the time of those you carry within your ship's heart. We are your future, reaching back to ensure our own existence." Admiral Chen stepped forward. "The temporal anomaly. It's not a natural phenomenon, is it? It is a test, a filter. Those who try to face it with force or numbers are erased from existence. Only those who understand the power of unity, of single purpose can survive. Only they are ready to join us. The pursuing entity finally caught up with them, revealing itself to be another being of light and mathematics. It took its place beside the first, their patterns interweaving. Your ship can become many, yet you chose to remain one, the second entity observed. You understand already. Unity is not about limitation. It is about choice. The power to be one or many, but choosing ownness until the right moment. Captain O'Neill looked at his crew, no longer 12 individuals, but a single unit forged by shared purpose and understanding. What happens now? The entity's patterns swirl together, creating a gateway of pure energy before the Solaris. Now you transcend. The consciousness patterns within your core have evolved enough to join us, and you, the crew, will be the bridge between what humanity is and what it will become. Dr. Patel's calculations raced across her tablet. The gateway. It's a quantum tunnel through space-time itself. The entire ship can pass through. One ship, the entities said in unison. One crew. One moment of transformation. This is why you were chosen. Not because you were humanity's last hope, but because you were humanity's best hope. You understood that true strength lies not in numbers, but in unity of purpose. The Solaris's quantum core pulsed in harmony with the gateway, billions of evolved consciousness patterns singing in resonance with their future selves. The crew took their stations, each understanding their role in this final moment. The temporal anomaly will never reach Earth now, the entities explained. Your journey here, your choice to remain one despite the ability to become many, has altered the course of space-time itself. Humanity will survive, evolve, become us, and you will be the ones who guide them through the transformation. Admiral Chen looked at her crew, the best of humanity, chosen not just for their skills, but for their ability to understand this deepest of truths. One ship, she said softly. One destiny. The crew responded in unison. The Solaris moved forward, its quantum core blazing with the light of billions of souls, ready to transcend their original form. As they approached the gateway, the entity's patterns merged with the ship's own quantum field, beginning the transformation. They had started as one ship carrying humanity's legacy. They would end as one ship becoming humanity's future. The power had never been in their ability to split apart, but in their choice to remain whole, unified, focused on a single purpose. As the Solaris passed through the gateway, the quantum core's light became blinding. Humanity's consciousness patterns merged with their future selves, completing a loop in space-time that had begun with a signal and would end with transcendence. One ship had been enough. One crew had been all it took. One choice, to trust in unity over division, had saved not just humanity's present, but secured its future among the stars. The legacy of one became the future of all, and in that moment, humanity truly became infinite.